Happy Wednesday! All right. Okay, so today is going to be a wonderful day. So excited. So to get started with the packet today, we are going to be making some fun cards. So the first card I'm going to start with is going to be this one here, kind of in this kind of purple kind of color palette. So I wanted to kind of start out by saying that something that you may want, if you happen to have it, is either a brown ink pad or brown watercolors, and also a purple ink pad or maybe purple watercolors. And so like a watercolor palette like this would work great because you have all those different colors in there. Or if you're doing the ink pad route, that would be this. I'm using the walnut stain distress ink. Whoops, sorry. Let me turn that around there. Walnut stain distress ink, which is a nice dark brown, as well as seedless preserves distress ink. Okay, so the tools I'm going to recommend for you to use would be the blending sponges, if you happen to have those. That would be these guys, which kind of look like this. They kind of feel like a makeup sponge. If you don't have that, but you do have the ink pads and things, you can also use a paper towel, and that actually surprisingly works well, weirdly enough. If you're going to do the watercolor, instead of doing the ink pad part, which I'm going to use the ink pads, but if you're going to use the watercolor, you just do watercolors like you would normally do, and then that would make it so that you can just do your colors like you would normally do your coloring. Okay, so, and you can paint with your normal paintbrushes. Alright, so I'm going to get my craft mat here. It's like you're actually at like a little demonstration. Okay, so here we go. La la la. Alright, so on the very front of the card here, you're going to take these pieces right here. Now, I'm going to show you how to make a very quick wood grain. If you're doing watercolors, you're not going to be able to do this part. You're probably just going to want to do some lines of watercolor. Actually, I'll show you what you could do with the watercolor. So I did recommend that you could do that too. I'll show you how to make it look cool first. I'm going to find a water brush with water in it. Okay, if you're going to do watercolor on the back, this is what you can do here. I'm just going to show you. I'm going to take some, this is a water brush that has water in it. So that way when you're doing watercolors, it makes it just go super fast. So if you're going to do your wood grain here, we're making this wood grain in case I didn't already say that. If you're going to do it with a paintbrush and watercolors, you can just do this kind of a thing where you kind of use your paintbrush, you have kind of a thicker line, and then you kind of go up and kind of do a thinner line. So then you have like a series of kind of thick and thin lines, and I kind of do it kind of back and forth kind of like this a lot. And if you have some paint on there, but then you don't put more paint on there, what happens is the water brush, especially this style of water brush, eventually gets lighter in color, and then you kind of get like this kind of look. Okay, so that's a really quick way to make wood grain, and you can go across all of those. It's not my preferred way to make wood grain, and I'm going to show you my preferred way for doing this card. But this is a great way to do it if you're doing the style where you're using your watercolor palette. So I'm going to put that away for right now. Alright. So for these, though, for today, we're going to use a brown ink pad. Now, this is the fastest way, I'm not even joking, to do a wood grain look. So I'm going to recommend doing on a silicone craft mat because it doesn't move when you kind of push on the papers, because we're going to do this. You take your ink pad, brown ink pad. If you don't have a brown ink pad, if you happen to have a black ink pad, or even if you have another color, you can play around with this concept. It's really cool. And you just take it and you literally just swipe it across. Okay? Just like that, and you can kind of go back and forth like this. And again, we're just kind of going in this direction. We're not going like this. We're just going one direction like this. Okay. Now, of course, they're moving a little bit, but not as bad. All right. And that's how you make a quick wood grain. So easy. And it actually does kind of look like wood grain. Isn't that fascinating? I just absolutely love that. Okay, I'm going to take a moment and just clean my surface here. That way I don't get brown ink all over the place. Alrighty. Okay. So then on the front of the card here, now we're going to go ahead and we're going to glue these in place. So I usually lay it down first so I can kind of see about how much space I'm going to need between each piece of the wood grain. Already, I'm just loving the look of this card. Oh, I love it. Okay, so you're going to have about 1/8 of an inch on the top and bottom. And then between each of the little planks, I would say you have about, let's say 1/16 of an inch. Okay, so just about like that. So not very much. So once you kind of determine how much space, you can go ahead and glue your little wood grain planks on. La la la. And I don't usually use so much glue that it's like squirting out the sides. I usually just use enough that I use the tips to apply it so that it's the tip of my glue is literally touching my paper. I've seen a lot of people over the years that use way too much glue, and you really don't need very much. The less you use, the faster it's going to dry. Okay, just gotta keep that in mind. So if you want it to dry really quickly, use less glue. All right. My planks aren't perfect, but actually I'm okay with that. But look how fun! Look how fun! Oh my gosh, I just love it. Love already. Okay, so now you have your little flower strip. So this is where you can go in. Of course, you can do some watercolors and things here. I'm actually only going to do purple. So, and the reason why is because I don't have any other green happening in this card. So to add in more green here, I may change it as I continue with this card, to be perfectly honest, because sometimes I change things as I make the cards. But at this exact moment, I'm not planning to add any green here because there isn't any green anywhere else. So with a paper towel, you can pick up the color and you just buff it in to your flowers. I'm actually going to use my sponges because I prefer my sponges for doing this. And I'm really just going to color my little flowers purple here. With a little bit less pressure, you can make your flowers a little bit kind of more pastel. With a little bit more pressure, you can make them a little bit darker. Okay. Now, because I'm working in my kind of purple kind of color palette here, I want this to kind of be monochromatic. And so to do that, I'm just going to color my leaves a little bit of purple as well, but I'm going to leave my stems white. Okay. It doesn't have to be realistic, it just has to be kind of fun, kind of whimsical. Okay, all right, so now I'm going to put this away. I'm going to tuck these down here to the side. I'm going to wash my surface again. Now, if you would like to make those green, you of course are welcome to. I always want to encourage you guys to be creative. I always want to make my craft kits like super involved. I'm like, yes, multiple steps, so involved. And then I find that sometimes it gets kind of overwhelming. But you know what? Craft kits that aren't super overwhelming, they're just kind of fun, kind of relaxing, tend to be a little bit more, I think, on people's pace. Okay. All right. So now what I have here is I've cut you out a vellum circle and I've cut you out a white circle. Oh, by the way, so you can see the flowers, how they turned out. Alright, so I did a little bit of purple, not very much, just very light purple on the leaves up here and on the leaves down here, and I left my stem light. So, what I'm going to do first is that alright, so this is going to be where the little jar is. This is going to be the jar. Okay, so my idea here is that my little flowers are going to tuck in here. If you want to just do one flower, of course you're welcome to. I like the idea of kind of doing like a grouping of flowers, but they're exactly the same, which is awkward. So I'm going to approach that here. So first off, I'm going to decide, do I want to chop the top of this and kind of shape it out a little bit? Do you want to kind of change your jar shape a little bit? So you have to kind of decide what you want to do there. I've decided yes. So I'm going to trim the bottom of this because it's going to sit on the bottom here. Okay, and I'm actually going to have it kind of sit along the bottom edge of that. And so I will go back here and I'll line up my vellum and trim my vellum once I've decided what I want to do with my jar shape. Okay, so I want my jar shape to kind of be like this. Okay, it's got a little bit kind of a fishbowl shape. I'm okay with that. And I'm actually going to put it over here because my wood planks are a little bit off in size. I don't know why that happened, but I'm going with it. And so I'm actually going to kind of cover that up by putting my little fishbowl jar shape there. I'm going to line this up on top of my vellum so that that creates my little stencil. And then I always look down on my paper here rather than trying to do it from the top and be like, oh, does that match up? So if your paper that you're cutting is on the underside, then it makes it much easier for trimming. The vellum piece is going to go on top, okay? So this is where you're going to go. So you're going to figure out where you want your little jar to go. And then, or your vase or whatever you want to call it. And then you're going to kind of decide how you want your flowers to sit. Once you've kind of decided on the first one, then you can kind of decide for your second one. You may decide you don't want to use the second one in this jar at all. Maybe you don't even want to use your second flower on this card and you want to use it, save it for another card. Great! Totally fine. Do whatever you'd like to do. Another amazing idea is you can actually cut out the flowers and then only glue them in the center and then use your fingers and kind of pull up on the flower petals and kind of make 2 3D flowers. You can do so much with this. So there's lots of possibilities here. Actually, I think that's what I want to do. No. Yes. What do I want to do? Oh my gosh, I can't decide. There's so many different choices. I think I'm going to let you guys do that on your own if you would like, because how amazingly inspiring. But I'm actually, for my card, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just, I want to do a flower grouping, and that was my original plan here. So I am going to build off of this. So I want to do 2. I'm just going to go ahead and start, I'm going to glue my flowers, my petals together, my stems. So on this one here, I'm going to go ahead and trim this off. Just some of these because I don't want them to be exactly the same because it's just awkward when it looks exactly the same. So I'm just going to trim off some of those things. So I'm left with this kind of a thing. Sorry if that's in your way, guys. Alright, and so I'm actually going to glue this probably right there. A little bit of glue on my stem. And glue that down. And I'm going to go right here. Okay. And let's make sure my stem is actually lined up. Oop, there we go. Alright, and my little curly cue. My second little curly cue up here, I think. The top. I'm going to bend this over just a little bit so there's a little bit more there since I have a little bit more space. And I think on this end here, I think I need to trim this guy off. This is just a little bit too long. And I always make sure to kind of curve my little stems. So then that way you don't have any little pieces that are just like kind of sticking off kind of awkwardly. I'm going to go back in here and anywhere that is kind of awkward, I'm just going to go ahead and start gluing on little leaves and things like that. Okay. And I'll do another one up here at the top. Okay, so this is what I've kind of done here, alright? And then I'm going to do another, kind of like this idea of, I want there to be this leaf in here somewhere, but I don't want it to be right next to that one. Ooh, right at the top. I'm doing it behind this flower petal here. Hiding it. Okay, I think I'm pleased with what I've created here. Actually, I'm going to add this last little flower in right here because I think that would be just about perfect. Alright, so once you've created your flower grouping and you're pleased, oh, I am so pleased with this, I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the backside stem. Okay, just on the stem only. And then a little bit on this large leaf here and on this back flower here. The idea is that the flowers are on the farthest back side, okay, because these ones are in the front. So the ones on the back are the ones that are going to be getting glued down the most, okay? So you can put all the way along that stem and the leaves in the flower there, all right? I'm first going to start out by gluing in here. If you want the leaves to kind of be sticking out, you may want to trim those leaves and things down so that there's no leaves in your water or whatever you're going to do. I'm just going to call it water, but obviously I'm not going to paint that blue. I personally don't care that there's a few little leaves in my little potted plant there. Oh, actually, it's going to drive me absolutely crazy. I'm going to go down to the bottom here. I was going to have it sit up at the top, but it's just going to drive me crazy if I can see that there's, that would just bother me if I can like see that the stem starts halfway up. Oh my gosh, I could never do that. Okay, so now once I've stuck that down, I'm going to stick my little vellum piece on next here. And my flower is just going to be partially into the jar, and that's just how it's going to have to be. That's just how it's going to have to be. So now, with vellum, many of you probably already know this, you can always see the glue and adhesive when you're doing glue. So I'm going to put a tiny little bit of glue at the very bottom, and then I'm going to take my finger, I'm sorry, this is really weird, and literally swipe it so that it's a nice thin amount of glue. So you can hardly even see that, and then I'm going to press it down at the bottom here. That's the only amount of glue I'm doing on that entire thing. Hardly any. Okay? Now to finish this off, before I glue it onto my my wood grain base there, I'm now going to go in here. So I'm going to pick up my little pieces here. I'm going to take my little ribbon that I've included in your little kit, and I'm actually going to wrap this around. Now, I'm going to tell you right now that this is not the right color. Oh, that's going to drive me insane. So I'm actually going to colorize my ribbon here. Yes, you can colorize your ribbon. So that way it's actually closer to the color that I want. Dun, 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 dun. Easy enough to do. If you're using watercolors, this is not going to work, so you're going to need an ink pen for this project. A little bit of acrylic paint, like watered down, and you could dip your ribbon in, might also work, or you could paint it on with a little bit of acrylic paint and water. But really, an ink pad is the best because it's going to be the driest. Okay. Alright, once you're satisfied with how much color, and I know it's not going to be perfect, but that's okay. I'm going to clean my surface here. I'm really into cleaning my surface recently, so I don't get the ink all over my beautiful white card base. Alright, so I'm going to take my ribbon here and I'm going to wrap it around and tie it in the front. You might get a little bit of ink on you from the ribbon, and in which case you're just going to have to wash your hands. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to tie that. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is so precious. So precious. Oh, I'm just so happy with that. Alright, so there we have that. Then you're going to take your glue or double-sided tape and you're going to glue that on. So I'm going to use just my glue here. Now remember, I already told you where I was going to go with this, and that helped me decide which direction my little bouquet of flowers was going to kind of land and kind of lean back. Oh, by the way, there's still glue on my back pieces. I just totally remembered. Luckily, that glue stayed wet long enough that I can just press that down. Surprisingly. And these pieces are going to kind of hang off here, except that some of them are going to get caught on certain things. So I'm going to glue a few of them down. I just like that there's a little bit of dimension there. And that gives it kind of an opportunity for you to kind of pull some forward and some back. You can always use dimensional dots to add in there. I'm not going to include dimensional dots this time because I'm getting low. I need to order some more. But at the moment, you should be fine not needing those. Oh gosh, this card is just absolutely beautiful. Okay, so now I've also included these little hearts and included a little piece of paper here. I included one piece of paper in case you wanted to add your own little sentiment, okay? And you can add that, and you can cut the little hearts out and kind of scatter the hearts everywhere. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with this card, though. And then that way you can kind of decide what you would like to do. I'm going to cut on the outside of the purple ink here, so that way, of course, I get to actually enjoy the purple ink. Because if you cut on the inside the purple ink, you miss out on the fact that I stamped in purple. Okay, so I just cut along the tops of all my hearts first, so then I can go in here and cut all the bottom sides of my little hearts. Alright, so I'm actually going to glue these onto my piece of white here. I did try to line up all of those hearts so they were perfect right in the middle on the piece of white paper, but you know what? It just did not happen. So again, another thing you could do is you could take your little pop dots and you can pop those up so that they're kind of raised up. Oh gosh, how fun and cute would that be? So that's kind of a fun idea. Again, you can kind of scatter them about, or you can put some on the inside of your card. So you got some fun different ideas there. Okay. I think it looks like I included 7. Sorry, I am cutting all of them out. I know that that might annoy some of you, but I am going to do it. Oh, mind if I had one left? Alright, so on my little piece of white paper here, I'm going to do the thing I always do, which is cut a little flag kind of thing on the side. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue my little hearts on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Alright, so once you've arranged those and they're nice and straight, then you can kind of decide where you want to glue that down. If you want to glue it on the inside, I'm going to glue this right across the top here, so I just think that's so cute. Or you could glue it across the bottom. That might also be kind of fun, but I'm going to do it across the top. Oh gosh, that's so cute. Alright, so there we have that. There is card number 1. So much fun. Oh my gosh, adorable. Just to finish this off, I'm just going to do one other thing. You can do your watercolors too. I'm going to take my ink pad and I'm going to smush it onto my craft mat here. An ink pad that is water-based, like a distress ink pad, is really ideal for this entire project. Okay, you really do. I really recommend it. So then that way, when you do this, it makes sense because it's going to reactivate the ink with water. Then on the inside of the card, because I really like to do something on the inside, is I'm going to do a little splatter, and that's just going to kind of tie the color and also just kind of make it kind of fun and just kind of tie the whole thing together. So tying the color and the kind of casual kind of style into the inside. Okay. And I just do a little bit of a splatter because that way it's just very subtle. It's not too overwhelming. And then you can still write your little message or your sentiment on top of it, or even stamp a sentiment if you're going to stamp a sentiment inside. That's also the other reason why I did just the hearts on the outside, was because that way you can make this card for Mother's Day, which I think would be a perfect Mother's Day card, right? A perfect Mother's Day card, or a thank you card, or a miss you, you know, that's just kind of fun. And then I glue that on there, and it kind of gives it just a small little bit of dimension, as you can kind of see there. So a lot of different reasons why I really love this card today. Oh gosh, so much fun, so much fun. That is just great. And of course that the splatter just dries immediately, which is really cool, and you can kind of see that on there. All right, you guys, that is card number 1. On to the next one.